Simone, you are live, you are live.
Hello everybody and welcome to Dive 2 of today's Dive Live adventure. I am Simone, your underwater biologist of the day. I have the hungry Hungarian Emil on camera. And I have Pat on the surface ready to send down any questions you have for me today. Now don't forget to hashtag diveLIVE on Twitter. Check out our Facebook page, diveLIVE, and talk in the chat, sending your questions in, as well as our YouTube chat feed. We are ready to talk about anything you see on the camera, any questions for Pat, and any questions for me. Now, at the moment, I am on a sandy bottom where it's 13.3 meters. Now, I heard they saw a lot of crustaceans today, and I'm exceptionally jealous, so I want to beat them and see something more magnificent than that. Maybe an eagle ray that we've heard that is in the area. They do eat on the sandy bottoms, so maybe we'll spot him today. And anything else that you guys want to see, maybe some sea urchins, just write it on in and we'll keep our eyes out for you.
Yes, that's that eagle ray that Simone mentioned. We got a very fleeting glimpse out this morning, but they are very elusive creatures. So if it wants to come around and make its way up to Simone today, that would be absolutely fantastic.
I would be a very happy chappy indeed.
So Simone, you mentioned that you do want to top me on the crustaceans for this morning. Now, I got a spiny lobster and a Peterson's cleaning shrimp. Is there anything other than that that you wanted to find?
Well, there are some shrimp here on the reef known as banded coral shrimp or boxer shrimp. They look like this, like they're ready to fight, and they have bright red bands running down their arms. They're really fabulous, and they have very long antennae waving about. So maybe I get to see them. I mean, who knows, maybe even a sea slug as well. They are very cool animals. But as you can imagine, they're very tiny. So I have to really keep my eyes out and my wits about me.
Most definitely. And Simone, we have a question or a request more from Donna asking about whether you can explain more about hand signals for divers. So maybe not do it just now, but whenever you give us a hand signal, maybe if you could try and explain to us what it means and why you're doing it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, there are so many, so it's very hard to think of them all at once. But when I do one, I will show you. I also just do a lot of underwater karate, so I could just be doing that as well.
And Cindy wants to know what the water temperature is down there today.
So the water temperature is 27 degrees Celsius, which is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really quite warm. It's really quite lovely. And there's quite a bit of plankton that I think you can probably see on your screens today. It's kind of like the snow that's falling towards you right now. So it is raining food on the reef. A lot of the animals here should be very happy about that, which means maybe they'll be coming out to play. Yes, it does mean that that lowers our visibility, so I can't see as far as I would like to, but that's okay.
And I Am Brain wants to know, Simone, if you encounter a shark today, are you going to be able to swim with it?
If I can swim fast enough, then maybe. But we'd most likely encounter a nurse shark, and they actually swim really slowly. They actually like to rest on the bottom, so maybe I can swim with one of those. But if it was maybe a tiger shark, they might be a little bit quick. But I know Emil's very good at swimming, so he would probably be able to swim alongside it.
And Donna, again, is asking, why do you actually fold your hands while you're diving?
Well, if I keep my hands dangling, I might hit something. You can see how close my hands are going to touching stuff, so I might get stung. Also, something like this isn't very good, because if I get too excited, I might go boop and pull my mask off or my regulator out of my mouth. It wouldn't be a very good look. Oh, it looks like we have a grouper up ahead. So let's see if we can get an image there. Do you guys see the tiger grouper?
Yeah, so just right in the middle of where you're looking right now, there is a tiger grouper, called so because we can see the stripes on it, just like a tiger. Now, Simone, how big would you say this one is?
Probably about 1.5 foot. So very, very large for grouper. Well, they do get much larger, but on this reef they generally are a bit small. I think it's a bit of a nursery or playground for them.
And they are the masters of staying still. So they do tend to come in a fair few colour variations, but despite that, they just camouflage simply by staying so very still. You'll notice a lot of Graysbys on this reef that you'll just float over and sometimes won't even notice them because they are barely moving at all.
Yeah, now keep on telling us that you can see him on screen or not, because he is in a bit of a cave.
Yes, we've actually got quite a good view. It's just poking its head out of the darkness there. It almost looks like something out of a horror movie.
Oh, beautiful. I'm glad you can see him. Yeah, so they have really, really large pectoral fins as well. They're very agile. They can sneak through all of these caves. And they'll be chomping on any little things that might be hanging around there.
And it looks like this one's had something chomped back. Underneath its eye, we can see quite a scar running underneath its eye. And that would be either from a larger fish, such as a shark, trying to attack it. But because there's not that many big predatory sharks on this reef, I could assume that this would be from a male from fighting one another.
Yeah, you can imagine having this lovely gully in the rocks. It's pretty great real estate. So you would fight quite ferociously to get all the females that might be here, as well as all the great hiding places like where he is now. He is hanging at around 13 meters underneath a little overhang, so it would be very hard for a large shark to, one, see him, and two, actually get in here to eat him. And this is where it would rest when it was, if it was hunting during the day, they would rest here during the evening, or vice versa, depending on when he wanted to come out and feed.
And they also use this hiding mechanism to ambush prey as well. As you can see, they have very big jaws, robust jaws, and raspy holding teeth, so spiky teeth, that they will use to, once they get prey, hold it there, or even in some cases rip it straight in half. So we can tell a lot by a fish's mouth shape. Quite often, just by looking at the mouth, you can tell what it's mostly going to feed on. So in this example, we can tell from the big, strong jaws and the teeth that it might prey on smaller fish, whereas herbivores, such as the parrotfish, have a really fused beak that they can use to scrape algae off the rocks. So different feeding habits generally is dictated by a different mouth shape.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to get out of Emil's way because I think I found the shrimp I were looking for.
Oh, yes, we got two here. Yes. So those white long antennae belong to shrimp. Now, we cannot see the bodies at the moment, Simone. We can only see the antennae.
All right, that's okay. We'll see what we can do, but we might not be able to see because you can imagine being a shrimp, you want to be hiding away very effectively, but you can see how those antennae are dangling out of the cave system. Now we know that some shrimp are cleaner shrimp.
Oh, we got a very good view of them now.
Oh, wonderful. Are they banded coral shrimp?
Yep, definitely.
Beautiful. Ticking my list off, aren't I? So they are actually dangling out of the cave because they are advertising their services. So they are saying, hey guys, I'm under here if you want to come and get a clean. They have these very intricate dances, and the Peterson shrimp also does this as well. And a lot of people think, why on earth would you indicate where you are on the reef if you're so small? Surely something would want to eat you, right? Well, that's the trade-off. They've done a deal with the devil here. They've said, I will clean you if you do not eat me. And I think it's a pretty good deal, especially if the food is almost always delivery. They come straight to you.
Yeah, they've got it pretty good, these shrimp. And now, these shrimps are crustaceans. So, crustaceans are anything with a hard exoskeleton that they can move. And this also is categorised by land relatives, such as insects. So we can see here that they do have a bit of a striking resemblance to some of the land insects. And that's because land insects actually evolved from arthropods, or crustaceans, more or less.
Yeah, and you will see there might be a few bubbles here and there. That is not them. That's what Emil's bubbles are. As he exhales, he's doing some amazing underwater yoga to be able to see these gorgeous animals, and you can imagine how good they are at hiding when they do not want to be found.
Yes, I think they would have a problem retracting those antennae. That's usually a dead giveaway of their position, is that they have these antennae out.
Yeah, and there are two in the cave. Right, so these guys actually can mate for prolonged periods of time. They're almost always found in pairs. And they are very sassy and very good at defending their territories. If another cleaner shrimp wanted to come on in, no way, Jose. They would box them. That's why they're called boxing shrimp. So they do have tiny pincers, but if another species has tiny pincers too, they will fight. One will also ditch its arm if it does get injured or needs to create a diversion. So they have so many tactics of, reclaiming their territory, surviving on the reef, and actually being exceptionally valuable.
And Celtic just wanted us to clarify how big these shrimp were.
Not big at all. So the actual body is about half the size of my pinky, so not even close to an inch. But the antennae are probably as long as my largest finger, or my second largest finger. So that would probably be about almost 2 inches. So it's so important to have that large antennae to show exactly where you are in the big wide reef. So we'll come on up. Thank you so much, Emil. That was amazing. Amazing camera work.
Yes, that was a really, really good shot to get in there with those shrimp, and it's great to see some more macro life. We still are yet to have our zooming capabilities, so our cameramen really are under pressure when it comes to looking at small things. So thankfully we have 2 very skilled cameramen.
Yeah, they've been able to show you some very small and as well as fast-moving animals on the reef. So yeah, we owe a lot to them. But if there was anything you guys want to see, I've now ticked one thing off my list and I'm kind of proud. I'm going to toot my own horn over here. And what we saw was a boxer shrimp. So for those wondering, this is the diver sign for shrimp.
Ah, very good. Thanks for doing that, Simone. And just while we're still talking about the shrimp, Take Care is asking, what do the antennae actually detect with these shrimp?
Sorry, what do the antennae what?
Detect. So changes in pressure, or is it chemical, or?
Oh yeah, so they can definitely, they're very tactile antenna. The larger, so they can feel, but also they can sense chemical changes, almost like us smelling. So they're very diverse, but of the longest antennae, similar to lobsters, they use it as a tactile thing.
And just, there's a bit of confusion here on the chat about who's doing what right now. So we have Simone underwater, Emil on camera, and I am Pat up on the surface.
Yeah, we do change regularly. I can understand it's quite hard to keep track. But you can notice that we are sticking near the sandy area as well as the coral in the hopes that that eagle ray flies on by.
Yes, unfortunately, tracking things underwater is non-existent, almost impossible to do unless we have a large seashell that's moving very slowly and leaving a trail across the sand. Because we are in a liquid environment where there's constant movement, there's not really much that an animal can leave that we can track. Obviously, we're only restricted to what we can see, and what we can see is quite often nothing. So it's a bit different to being on land. We can't really ever surely say what we're going to see, but we can only go to where we know they might be and hope for the best.
Unfortunately, it takes a lot of diving and a lot of science to be able to put all those things together to give you an educated guess on where things might be at what certain time. Luckily, that's a good excuse for us to go diving more in the area to be able to put all the factors together. So I'm pretty happy to be told, Simone, you've got to dive more. I can handle it.
And so, Simone, what's your depth right now? Have you moved very much from where we started?
No, so we probably moved about 50 metres away from the location at the start. We're at about 15 metres. Now we actually have 2 fish down here. Oh, whoa, sorry. 1 fish underneath this sponge. And it is commonly a people's favourite fish. It is known as the long spine squirrel fish.
Yeah, so right in the middle of where you're looking, that red and white fish with the big black eyes.
And I think we can all see why it's called a squirrel fish. It has some of the largest eyes on the reef. And they are actually, I personally think, very cute. But they look almost out of this world.
Yeah, it's almost alien-like with those big eyes. And that is just because they are nocturnal feeders. So we can see that this one is not very active right now. Generally, you'll find them hiding in and around crevices and caves during the day. But nighttime, they are much more active and they are a predatory fish. They have very big gulping mouths. So they will come out at nighttime to feed on the littler fish that are about.
Yes, now, are you getting a view of a special crustacean by any chance?
Ooh, is that an arrow crab?
Yeah, baby, it's Crustacean Station. We are at an arrow crab's home. So this is a yellow line arrow crab. He looks like a creepy crawly spider, doesn't he?
Yeah, so we're not getting the best view. I can see it, but I have a bit of a trained eye. So it is sitting just to the top of where you're looking right now. And it's got long, spindly legs, almost like a daddy long-legged spider. So
yeah, we'll see what Emil can do. He was the original Spotty.
Oh, it's poking its head out now, and we can see it's got a very elongated, almost nose coming out the front of it.
Yeah, so this is its protective shell that gives it a triangular shape. Now they can clean. They have been known to clean fish, but they mostly eat detritus and small things in the sand. Now, if you're not getting the best view, we'll try and move off and try find another one, because there are quite a few on this reef.
Now, Brain is asking whether we will have a break during the hurricane season, and no, we won't. Unless there is an actual hurricane that hits, we have a safety plan in place, but only if a hurricane comes will we not dive, because we want to have you guys down with us as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, and you know, obviously hurricanes do cause a lot of damage, but it's during the time of the storm, and the storm in one area doesn't last much longer than a few days. So post-hurricane, it's priority to come down here and actually see what's happened. What is the effects? What are the immediate effects? You guys can track the changes that we see with us, which I think is really quite lucky and very, very special. So we would like to stay in this area and show you all the changes one environment goes under during the whole year.
Yes, it's actually kind of like, if you're familiar more with the terrestrial environment, when a bushfire runs through an area of scrub, quite often there is a marked difference in the biodiversity because of this change, and everything regenerates and regrows, and it's actually sometimes beneficial for the ecosystem. So that is just like what happens here underwater. A hurricane may come through, but there is regeneration, and it will change the ecosystem in some ways, but not always for the worst.
Yeah, now we were just trying to follow a mast hamlet, but I think he's disappeared. But yeah, everything that is natural, I mean, unfortunately, due to global warming, there is an increased incidence of hurricanes, bushfires, all of these natural disasters, but in the long run, they are natural. So a lot of these environments have such diverse ways of coming back and recouping after these damaging effects. Obviously, if they occur too often, they can't bounce back, and that's the issue we're facing now. Like I said, you guys can track these changes along with us, which is a pretty special moment.
And so right now you are over a sandy patch there, and it seems like Is that... oh no, don't worry. I thought there might have been a tilefish there with a nest, but do not worry.
I haven't seen one, but maybe.
No, I was looking at something else. It was not it.
Yeah, that's okay. So we are going to loop around now, and we're going to come a little bit higher on the reef. I don't know if this eagle ray is going to show itself to us, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean we're not going to see other really groovy things.
And Tom is asking, how far offshore are you? Now, I'm probably better at answering that because I can see physically where Simone is by the markers of the line. And she is about 150 metres or 500 feet offshore. So not very far at all. This is a nice shore dive here on the western side of Grand Cayman Island at a place called Casuarina Point, which is right out of the front of Don Foster's Dive Centre, one of the best dive sites here and one of the best dive centres here.
Yeah, we're really lucky we can just stroll offshore and see what we can see. Now come along into this little overhang with us, and maybe we can find some cool things that might be hiding away.
Now we have a request from Celia to keep an eye out for a queen angelfish or a nice filefish, and I would definitely agree with those requests because they are both very, very beautiful fish, and I think it's also pretty likely that we'll run into one.
Yeah, hopefully.
But having said that, Simone is on the hunt for her crustaceans today. Ooh, is that a soldier fish there?
It can actually be, yeah, it's either a soldierfish or a glass eye snapper. They always look very, very similar. But I do think it is a glass eye snapper.
Ah.
So they look very similar to soldierfish because they're both very boxy. But you can see once again, he is very red. Red being the general colour of nocturnal species on the reef. And do you see the scarring on his stomach?
Yes, so we can see quite a few white little scratches there on its tummy. What do you think that would be from, Simone?
Well, because of how fine it is, it doesn't look like teeth or anything. It could definitely be parasite marks. Or maybe a very excitable cleaner fish has stolen some scales off of him. Sometimes cleaner fish pretend that they're cleaner fish, but they could be another species doing something we call mimicry. They'll actually bite off scales and pieces of flesh instead of the parasites that they pretend they will. And I hope you see the beautiful patterning on his body as well. There are some spots and lines.
We do apologise to anyone that's heard that car screaming past. We are broadcasting from outside today, so loud motors are a bit of an enemy at the moment.
Yeah, we do come from a working dive centre, so as you can imagine, background noise is quite expected. There are loads of boats and people letting to dive, so you have lots of things happening, but that's the beauty of it, coming from a place where people get to see all the time. It means you guys can see it too.
And Lindsay is asking, how do you equalise with that kind of mask on, Simone?
So I'm quite fortunate. My mask is different to Pat's mask. My mask has a very jelly-like nose, so I can pinch my nose, whereas Pat's is very firm. So he has to push his mask up to create a seal, and he blows against it, which equalises his nose as well. But full face masks all have different things. Some people who can't do those will wear nose clips. It all really depends. Some people can just swallow, but I find being able to talk to you means my body will equalise the space really easily and normally quite naturally. So yeah. Now we might come up from this overhang area. I was really hoping something was sleeping down here. This is a perfect kind of sleeping shark territory. They like to hang in overhangs, but alas, I was incorrect.
That's alright. There's plenty more reef to be explored, and yeah, I do agree with Simone's tactics here to look under the crevices and cracks and overhangs here because it is daytime, and so quite often during the day, a lot of nocturnal creatures will use the cover of the darkness as their friend.
Yeah, you can imagine nothing can come from above. What have you spotted? Oh, just helping. Yeah, you can imagine being in an overhang, nothing can come from above. So, it's pretty good to be able to hang out in a relatively predator-free area. I don't know about you, but if I think a shark is on the lookout for me, I'm probably not going to sleep very well.
No, most definitely.
Now we have spotted a school of blue tangs that seem to be heading towards us.
Yes, so we can see that quite well. So that is a mixed school. There's mostly blue tangs, which are the darker disc-shaped fish, but there's also a parrotfish in amongst them, which is quite a lot different. A lot bigger and swimming, and blue, swimming with its pectoral fins.
Yeah, so these tangs are all on the reef. They're going to be chomping up all the algae, and that's why the parrotfish are probably joining along. Because the parrotfish will be eating the coral that has algae in it.
Oh wow, this is a huge school. So we can only see a few until now, and we've just come up over, and that looks... Would you say there's about 60, maybe 70?
Yeah, I think you're pretty accurate. And there's also a black durgan, which is joining along. It's absolutely glorious. You can see there are different shapes among the crowd, but as well as different sizes. So we're getting some juveniles as well as adults all coming together to feed.
Yes, and these fish, like blue tangs, especially in such large schools, being herbivorous, are super crucial to what we call the trophic system, or the food web in simpler terms, because they are what connects the algae, which is in a huge abundance, to the higher trophic levels, so the higher fish in the food web. So what they do is they harvest the energy from the algae by consuming it. Now, algae doesn't have a very high nutrient or energy content, so they have to eat a lot. So by gaining all of this energy, they're transferring it up and allowing other species that may be carnivorous to still benefit from these herbivorous fish by eating them. So the energy is transferred from the algae to the fish, and then to the fish, to the higher predators, all the way up the food web. So it starts here with the herbivorous fish and the algae, and finishes all the way at the very end of the food web. And now I have read that it is about 10% of the energy that's originally harvested here by the blue tangs that will end up in the top of the food web through energy transfer.
That's crazy. They affect the reef so much, but you can see, I mean, they're almost a force to be reckoned with when they do come together like this. It's amazing, and they're flapping up and down like a bird. They're absolutely lovely. We've actually got a couple of chubs infiltrating now, so chubs have very small mouths and will eat very similarly to a tang.
And Lara Moore, that is a very good observation, and that is correct. It is the centre fish that is leading this school.
Yeah, now we actually cruised past a couple of filefish on our journey with those tangs. So we'll hopefully show you, because they do look like a mated pair.
Yes, so we can see them right in the centre right now, the odd-shaped fish. It's a bit hard to distinguish anything now, but I'm sure we'll get a closer look here.
We certainly will, because they are changing their colours, which is absolutely glorious to watch. They go from yellows... Oh, there's a trunkfish ahead of us as well. It's too much happening. Sorry, this is a cowfish.
Ah, yes, so yes, not...
He camouflaged quite well, didn't he?
Yeah, yes. So is that a honeycomb trunkfish?
Yeah, honeycomb cowfish.
Sorry, cowfish, yes.
Yeah, he does have very small horns above his eyes, which indicate that it is a cowfish.
And we can see that it's got quite an odd-shaped belly here, or ventral side. And that's kind of an evolutionary, a customary thing for the skeleton to avoid predators. So they have these kind of extended rib cages, if you will, that come down past the belly. So if a predator was to attack it, they wouldn't really get any flesh or organs. They just get a big mouthful of bone.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very appetizing, that is for sure. But you can see he can swim very effectively, and the way he uses his anal fin by flapping it back and forth is very peculiar. But still, he motors along through the open space of the ocean. And he has this amazing ability to change colours, similar to the filefish we were talking about before. It can put on a very bright blue sheen going across its body.
And odd-shaped swimmers are very funny to observe, but they're all evolved that way for a reason. So the fins are quite often in relation to the shape of the body, because they do have a swim bladder which allows them to control their buoyancy. So their fins don't always necessarily have to be facing downwards to generate lift. Sometimes they can be there just for propulsion or as a rudder to control direction.
Yeah, now we're seeing the tippy tops of the reef crest right now. And I hope you notice the colours that are coming through as opposed to the undergrowth that we were looking at before. So this is where algae is going to be growing, okay? So we're going to get really herbivorous fish up here, not like the groper that we saw before. And we're also going to have lots of minuscule fish known as chromis, as well as cleaning fish. Now here we have the blue chromis, that I hope you can see dancing.
Yes, there's many there. So those little blue fish with the deeply forked tails.
Yeah, and then there's also some Creole wrasse. They like to hang above the reef. Those are the long blue ones. And then we also have some feisty fish known as Damsel fish. Now he may come up here, but he is an algae eater. And he actually farms his own algae. So what he does is clears away a little bit of coral and will plant algae. He will actually put it with his mouth in little coral holes, and he will cultivate it and he will grow it and he will defend it like he's defending his crops. And he will look after this area for pretty much his entire life. But when those group of blue tangs come along, they bulldoze the area. They eat all of the damselfish's crops. He cannot defend it. So it's a pretty tough life for a damsel. And here he is right now, the man of the hour.
Yes.
This is a damselfish.
That is a bi-coloured damselfish.
Yeah, so he will be defending his algal crops. That's why he's not afraid of us. You can see here, he's thinking, what are you doing on my land?
Yeah, it's got his pectoral fins out, almost saying, hey, you want to go, you want to go.
Yeah, he's definitely looking for a fight.
And as Simone said, they do farm their algae. It's sometimes very sad to watch. So that school of blue tang that we saw before, sometimes they will come in and take advantage of a damselfish's patch of algae, and obviously they are defensive and will try and fight them off, but the sheer numbers of the blue tang are just too much for it. It's funny, but it's also pretty sad to see.
Yeah. It is quite sad, and I'm actually really enjoying staying here on this coral head because you guys are seeing the amount of action that ensues in just one section. So you see him, now you've seen some yellow line wrasse, also known as cleaning wrasse. They keep coming into view, the bluehead wrasse in front of you. They're all hanging out here, all waiting for a client fish to come and get cleaned, as well as to defend their territory like this young damsel is. And you'll notice that these fish are exceptionally colourful. Oh, there's a Sergeant Major swimming by. These fish are exceptionally colourful, and they are because a lot of them are cleaners. So you're going to have to advertise, right? You don't have neon lights and fluorescent lights underwater. You've just got the bright colours of yourself.
Yes, and speaking about colours, we actually have a question from Child of the Universe, who is saying that pretty much the coral looks a bit bluey, greeny off in the distance, but when we come up close, that it's colourful. And that is because we have a light on our camera, and light actually gets absorbed underwater also. So although we're seeing it off in the distance as a bluey greeny colour, that is because some of the red lights and the purple lights and other colours have been absorbed out through the effect of water. So when we're coming up close and actually shining a light on it, then that's putting that light back on it, so it hasn't been absorbed by the water because we are right up close to it rather than the sun coming down through the water. So that's what makes the difference of the coral colours when we come up close. It's not them changing colours. It's just a trick of the light.
Yeah, it is. We do lose so much colour down here, but that's why we do come down with all of these bright lights to be able to show you the beauty that there is. But it also helps all the fish on the reef camouflage. With the diffusion of all the lights, those red fish will not be seen. So, yeah, it's kind of pros and cons with that. But I hope you guys saw those little krill wrasse swimming by. So they'll be swimming past this area of the reef, stopping by all those cleaning stations to get it clean as well.
And we actually have quite a few questions today about the technical aspects of things, and Brett is saying that he's only dived with a standard rebreather and is not familiar with the masks and setup that we're using. Well, Brett, it's pretty simple. We are essentially, I'm sure if you're diving with a rebreather, then you would at some stage just use a normal regulator setup. So this is not changed here with the face mask, it's just that the regulator is inserted into the face mask and there's no mouthpiece, so we don't have to chew down on that mouthpiece. It just sits there and allows air to come in and out of our mouth. Apart from that, it's just your normal scuba diving setup.
Yeah, but I would love to dive with a rebreather one day. I'm very jealous of you.
Yes, that is our hopes, to be down there with a dry suit and a rebreather so we can bring you very long broadcasts.
Yes, now, for many of you that do not know, rebreathers are a different kind of setup to what you're seeing here, which allows you to stay underwater for an exceptionally long period of time. So hopefully one day we will have these and we'll be able to stay down here with you for 3 hours plus, assuming we don't get too cold. Now we have something spotted by the grand spotter Bill. Now I'm going to assume it's some sort of crustacean because when he is with me all he sees is crustaceans, which is correct.
We have a spiny lobster. So that actually answers a question earlier we had about do we get crustaceans here? And yes, just by watching this live dive, you can see that we have quite a diversity down here.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, it's not fair, guys. Emil's doing my job for me, I promise. So, as we can see, we have a beautiful... Oh, and there's an arrow crab in front of it. Oh, cool. But, so with the spiny lobster, you can see that he has very, very long, what we would say, antennae. Now, Pat, please tell me if anything I'm talking about doesn't make sense, because I can't see what you're seeing right now.
Alright.
But he has these long antennae that he uses to feel. Alright, so they're tactile antennae. He's going to poke out at the camera, at his foes, his friends.
Sorry, Simone. I'm just going to cut you off there to clarify something, because this one is actually missing its antennae. So the antennae, you can see there's a little stalk coming out from its face. So generally this is very, very long. So it's just a long antenna that comes out where that little stump coming out of its face is.
How funny is that? Okay, yeah, well, they would have very, very long antennae. But now I'm going to assume that he just has antennules. So these are the smaller antennae that are closer within his face, and they are used as chemosensory organs. So they can smell what we're doing.
Hopefully you're not peeing right now, Simone.
Yes. Yes, not live on television, no. So that is the amazing ability of these animals. So that means their eyesight doesn't have to be as good. But it doesn't mean their eyesight isn't that good. They can still see very well at night, actually. They're very, very active at night.
Yes, so we've actually come across quite a few nocturnal animals today, and I believe that's because it's quite grey and overcast and cloudy here, so there's not a lot of light hitting the water. So maybe it's just, brought fish a little bit more out of their comfort zone during the day. Or fish and crustaceans.
Yeah, and especially in these overhangs, you can imagine finding an overhang here. It creates such an amazing protection for any animal. So when these animals find this, they will stay there. I know for a fact spiny lobsters will have about 2 to 3 areas that they like to frequent, and they will always go back. A lot of the time they have a couple girlfriends on this side, so they'll go and visit their girlfriends. And they can mate with each of these girlfriends for 30 years or so. So they're lying a little bit, but they are socially monogamous organisms. Not sexually, but socially monogamous.
Much like humans, although some may deny that.
Now, Emil, I'm just slightly hopeful that you will be able to get that spider crab on, not spider crab, arrow crab on camera. It's right there in the centre. So, shake your head if you can see it. It's just still in.
We can't see it yet, but just while we're looking for it, Simone, can you give us an air check?
Yeah, no problem. Emil, did you see it? Awesome. Thanks, mate. So I am at 80 bar. So I've still got a little bit of time with you. Whilst we follow on this very, very crustacean-y dive. So tell me if you guys get a visual of that spider, that arrow crab. Let's see. Emil's doing some amazing lighting work.
Yes, so we can see that now right in the middle of where you are looking, that arrow crab. So that's a little bit of a better view of the one we got before. It's got a long spindly nose and big legs. It just looks like a daddy long legs.
Yeah, and they actually have bright purple claws as well. So I'm not sure if you've noticed, but almost every time we see a crustacean, there isn't another one is quite close. So you can see that they have a preference when it comes to what type of environment they would like to stay in. Overhangs, caves, really still water environments, because they're not eating plankton out of the water. Okay, that's something that's really important. Some do, but the ones that we're seeing at the moment aren't. They're advertising they're cleaning, or they're going through and, proactively searching for food such as algae. So it's really cool, because when you start to notice different environments, so you're going to start to notice that you're finding the similar sorts of organisms. So we might move up and maybe continue on this crested reef, because I'm really enjoying this side of the reef.
Yes, it's been a great dive so far. And yes, Paula, we do get seahorses here, but they are very elusive and often hard to spot. Most divers have been here 3 to 6 years have only seen one. So we are always on the lookout for one, but it's very unlikely that we will actually see one. They're very good at camouflage and also quite small, contrary to belief.
They certainly are. Sorry, I was just picking up some rubbish that was left behind on the reef.
Ah, good girl.
Yeah, there's a plastic cup for you. Single use is the enemy. Remember it now, remember it always.
Yes, just goes to show you, even if you're putting it in the bin, it's still going to end up somewhere. And unfortunately, a lot of the time is the ocean, so it's always better not to use rather than recycle or throw it in the bin.
I've been to a few keep cup parties. So I'm not sure if you've ever heard of a keep cup. It's where you take your coffee mug or a special cup to a coffee shop, and now we've been taking it to friends' parties so we don't have to use single use.
And just, so we were talking about monogamy before and social monogamy, and Wild Gummy Bear just wanted us to clarify what that was. So social monogamy is when two animals of a species will stay together, but not necessarily always mate together. So they generally will be mating, but the male will quite often mate with other females. So although it is not sexually monogamous, so it's mating with other females, so that's not sexual monogamy, that's sexual polygamy. The monogamous part is coming from the fact that it just stays with that one female.
Yeah, they certainly don't. It's quite rare. But what we do see is a Christmas tree worm. Are you guys getting a nice
Yeah, this is a magnificent shot. So we can see it's sitting on a star coral here, which is the warty animal living underneath the Christmas tree worm. And on top of it, on the left-hand side, that bright red encrusting animal is a sponge. And on the right, there's a Christmas tree worm as a damsel head just pokes his head out over the top too.
So that is a Christmas tree worm. You heard that right. It's another invertebrate of the day. That is a worm that has two outcrops up, and you've seen him move his Christmas tree-like appendages in. So maybe it'll come out. So that's a worm that has these appendages that it shoots kind of out into the ocean. It gets its oxygen as well as its food out of the water column, and it can retract itself quite efficiently. Sorry, he'll just get away from the camera a little bit. There's a bit of current down here. So it was actually probably scared more away by the damselfish than by us, because it senses movement as well as shadows. So we come with light, it won't sense that change, but it will sense the shadow and the movement from the damselfish that was protecting its algal crops. So you can see how it's all just so connected, like, and all the interactions on a daily basis that each organism has. So that damselfish is still around, skulking and skulking, making sure no one comes near his algal crops, including that frisky little worm.
A child of the universe is asking about the Christmas tree worms, wondering whether they always have the two appendages, and yes they do. So unless they have been attacked and one's been taken off, they will always have those two whorls, so WHORLS. They will always have two of those. There are other species, such as the feather duster worms, which just has one. It's orientated differently. It's got a shape like a feather duster. So with the Christmas tree worms, it's always the two appendages there.
Yeah, I'll try and show you a feather duster worm. The one thing I do notice about those is they're a little bit more sensitive to light than the Christmas tree worms. Christmas tree worms, as you can see, make amazing photos. They look very flamboyant and glamorous, whereas feather duster worms sometimes like to retract a little bit easier. But I will keep my eye out, because they do flow in the current, collecting all the yummy things that you can see floating past you right now. Go on.
Yeah, so there, Simone. Our proud cat mama of two wants to know whether Christmas tree worms come in different colours, and they definitely do. So it's believed that they are all the same species, but recent evidence is showing that they might be a complex of species. Now, a species complex is lots and lots of very, very, very closely related species that can produce hybrids and interbreed. So for now, they believe this is all the one species, but they do come in lots of different colours.
Yeah, they do, and they're very vibrant. It's quite crazy, because they are so vibrant, but you can imagine they've really got to play their cards close to them, because they are relatively sessile, meaning that they don't move around much. So if a predator does see where they are located, he's going to know that that's where that worm is going to be every single day. That's why they have to retract so quickly, because if a predator does come, they have to be quite ready. Now we've actually got a horseshoe worm up here, which looks quite similar. Holy moly. Oh, he's already gone, but I've spotted something a little bit more creepy. Emil, do you see this leg? Do you see that crab? Holy, wow, there is a big crab in there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, gosh, he's very big.
Looks like he's got himself a perfect home there as well. We can see it retracted itself very, very quickly and has pretty much disappeared.
Oh, he's disappeared, darn it. That's okay. I'm glad that you got to see that for a little bit, because that was a very almost... The weird thing about crustaceans is they can fit in very small areas. So when they are poking out, it can almost be a little bit creepy. Now there's another crustacean here. And I'm just going to point out. Tell me if you see it.
Not coming into shot now. Oh yes, so another arrow crab there.
Yeah, Are you getting a good view of this one?
Yeah, this one looks great. This is probably the best one we've had so far.
Beautiful, that's what I want. So you can see the spindly, I'll remind you, crab and not spider, is sitting in between this large sponge, probably picking some things off the sponge. He'll be eating algae, as well as maybe some little parasites that might be on this sponge. That doesn't mean he's a cleaner fish, but he's going to be very opportunistic. Now, do you see the fluorescent purple of his claws?
No, it's a bit hard to make out at the moment.
That's okay. Well, they do have very bright purpley blue claws that stick out almost like sore thumbs. So it's very cool to see him. He'll be using these claws to pick up things and put it in his mouth so they don't, you know, run their mouth over anything. They manually place things in their mouths. It's pretty cool. And now just on your left, Emil, you have a massive angelfish coming towards you, just on your left. Maybe we'll show these guys a bit, maybe some fish. I think, is anyone wanting to see some fish now that we've seen so many inverts?
Yes, well, so actually, we should probably explain what an invertebrate is as well. So an invertebrate is any animal that lacks a backbone. So a lot of what we've been seeing today have been invertebrates, such as the shrimps and the lobsters and the corals and the sponges and the Christmas tree worms. Whereas fish, they are vertebrates, which means that they have a backbone. And now Simone loves her invertebrates. She always has and always will, so I'm sure she's loving this dive. Oh, a queen angelfish.
Yeah, we spotted him.
We got, oh, sorry, I've forgotten who requested that, but whoever did, there you go, we have one.
Awesome, I'm glad you get to see this beautiful regal royalty of the reef. And the vibrant colours really show.
Now, this is a very, very blue angelfish. Quite often it's the yellows that are the vibrant colours, but this one's got a very blue cast.
Oh, no, yeah, and it's also very, very big. Wait, maybe it's a hybrid between a blue...
Oh.
Is it a blue Bermuda?
It could be. So some angelfish do make hybrids, so two different species. Somehow they are not reproductively isolated, which means that they can successfully reproduce, and they do produce hybrids, and I believe that one may have been a hybrid.
Cool. Well, guys, I have been down here quite a while, so I am in need of doing my safety stop, which is this signal. It's a stop at 5 meters for 3 minutes. It's a safety stop because I am low on air. I have 50 bar, so I'm ready. Oh, sorry. No, I don't. I have 70 bar, so I have to ascend to do my safety stop. But it was awesome having you underwater with me today. I hope I didn't get too excited with all the awesome crustaceans that we got to see today, as well as some really funky invertebrates. Now, thank you so much, Emil, for being the best cameraman ever. Invertebrates are very hard to capture. Thank you to Pat for being my surface guide. Thank you to everyone who has been sending in questions. I love answering them and sharing the underwater world with you. See you next time.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you, diveLIVE family. We'll see you here tomorrow, 7 a.m. Grand Cayman time.